We ended yesterday with seating, or we started on seating. And we're going to pick up where we left off. A couple of things first. A, how many of you did your homework? Okay. How many of you have done enough of your homework that you can do your 5 Ps? Not a fucking one of you.
There was a lot of homework.
Okay. So, here's what's going to happen. We're going to cover basic stagecraft this morning. Then we're going to give you some time to work on your presentation. And we're going to have you come up, we're going to have you present, and then we're going to have you start integrating the fundamentals of presentation and stage work into your talk. Then we'll circle back, we'll pick up with seating, and we'll close that loop, so to speak. Okay? So a couple of things we want to get off, I want to cover that isn't part of most stage trainings or speaker trainings that I have taken. Now, you'll find references to this in the book Power Cues by Nick Morgan. And what I want to talk about really quickly, besides the basics of microphone, stage presentation orientation, things of that nature, is this idea of what I call attention lines. And so, as I look at you, if you can imagine, I'm standing at the base of a triangle. And everybody from wall to where Richard is in my zone of attention. What does that mean? It means those are the people who are paying the most attention to what I'm saying. The moment I start to walk stage left, the triangle shifts. And so what happens now is these people have I have their attention, but I close off this room. When I go to this side, the inverse happens. When I come off the stage, the triangle flips. Now, Tommy V, some of you know who he is, some of you don't. He was one of the very well-known stage hypnotists. Came to HypnoThoughts Live 2 or 3 years ago. And he sat in my, I think it was either a law of attraction class or attractivation or something. He comes up to me after the training and he goes, "How do you keep people riveted for 3 hours?" And I said, "I don't know. This is how. You have to remember that fractionation works with attention." You see? So what am I doing as I'm moving? Smiling. Do I have more of his attention or less? When I walk away, do I have more of his attention or less? Yes. Now, I do this naturally, but when you reverse engineer and combine it with the science of it, I can keep, and if I think I'm losing a part of the room, I'll come right over. Right? You know, when Richard was helping me with CPI-1, oh, so many years ago, back when his hair was fully red, you know, Scott Sandlin and one of his friends were manning cameras. They had cameras on both sides. I was moving so fast, neither of them could catch me. Okay, now part of that is nervous energy, but you're going to have it, so use it, right? And so we're going to talk about basic blocking first, just to give you some ideas. But I want you to be very, very aware that there's a strategy to attention. Human brains like movement. They like motion. They like dynamism. Okay? But the way you move and how you have to move changes depending on where you are in relation to that audience. Okay? So these are some things I want you to think about. If you don't have the book Power Cues by Nick Morgan, it's worth having. Okay? If you don't have the book Honest Signals by Alexander Penland, you should have it, because both of these books are directly relevant to presentation. Directly relevant. If you want to be fascinating, charismatic, compelling, authentic, persuasive, if you want to hold the attention of a room, you must move. You must move either physically or emotionally, vocally. Your tonalities must rise and fall. There must be emotion in your voice. Okay? One of the worst examples of a neurolinguistic programmer. I gotta find a prop for this one. By the way, props work really well. Let's see here. I'll grab somebody's manual. All right. So, once upon a time, there was this meetup group called NLP Today. It was not my meetup group. It later became my meetup group, shortly after what I'm about to describe to you. So, I was asked to present, and there was 2 or 3 of us that were going to present that day. So the lady running the group was named Tatiana, Russian lady, fully trained master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming, which should have sent off a flag right there, right? And so one guy, I guess I got to go first. I forget if it was the gentleman before me or if I went first, but anyway, so I'm doing my presenting and I'm teaching about language patterns and stuff like that. And then it's Tatiana's turn to present. Now she just watched this one guy who was really dynamic, he was actually a very good speaker, and then me, who can't sit still for the life of me. And when it's her turn to present, I need a chair. Actually, I'll just use this one. It's all right. When it's her turn to present, this happened. Hello, my name is Tatiana, and I'm here to talk about for the next 35 minutes. It hurt to watch. Okay. Remember, physical barriers equal emotional barriers. It's literal. Physical barriers equal emotional barriers. There can be no emotional barriers between you and your audience. Okay? That's why yesterday I talked about loving your audience. Thinking of your audience as one person, your best friend, who you haven't seen in forever, who needs your help and needs your advice, and you just want the best for them. And you want to make sure that they have the best time humanly possible. That's the attitude that's going to get you out of fear. That's going to get you out of being self-conscious, which is what stage fright is. It's being so self-centered that you forget why you're there. Remember, the people in that room came there because they see you as a solution. They see you as an opportunity to make their lives better. They don't see you as somebody to be ridiculed or... No, don't get me wrong. You'll get trolls from time to time. If you're in this business long enough, trolls happen, right? So you have somebody play whack-a-troll, right? But if you're doing any kind of public speaking, any kind of public presentation, and you're worried about criticism, get out of the fucking business. Okay? You can always tell how successful you are by how many people are criticizing you. Okay? Because most of them are jealous. They're desperate for attention. And the more public of a figure you become, the more status you have, the more valuable your attention becomes to them. Okay? People do all kinds of things for attention. It's like a child. Can't get your attention the good way, they'll get it the bad way. Right? So one of the things I want you to pay attention to when you're up on stage, or even on the floor, and you're going to feel a difference because you're going to be presenting in small groups to each other, then you're going to be doing the same things up here, and I'm going to be kind of giving you feedback and critiquing, and I have a master showman with us, so I'm going to have him come up and teach a few things about how he does presentation and some of the fundamentals of it. But one of the things that we want to do is we want to eliminate barriers. The farther you are away from your audience, the bigger your movements must be. Okay? If I'm talking to a camera, like if I'm gonna screw up Richard's Zoom right here, but if I'm up here and I'm in this intimate zone, like in a film, I can do these little tiny movements, these little micro gestures and things of that nature, and it'll carry into the camera, right? But if I try to do those exact same movements here, as opposed to here, so your movements have to be bigger. They have to be slower. Your hands must describe what you're talking about. And it's in that movement, in that gestural language, that we can start to do some really cool NLP tricks, which we'll talk about later on. Bandler, when he's up on stage, he literally sees the entire audience like a control panel. And so when he's talking about this big, making it big and putting it inside your head, or talking, and he's talking in the editorial, but he's not. He's putting in his mind, he's got a big picture, and he just put it in your head. And because the audience is filled with people with heartbeats and mirror neurons, guess what happens? A big picture goes inside your fucking head. Okay? But it's concealed within the gestures. Okay? NLP does, well, good NLP practitioners do a lot with gestures. The good ones. The good other ones, they focus all the time on embedded commands, thought binds, and all the sexy shit that gets you caught. Right? So a couple of things when we're dealing with microphones. And again, we'll review this multiple times. A, you never turn your back to an audience. When you hold the microphone, if you are like so many presenters at Hypnothoughts, you're probably going to have a lavalier. But a lot of times you'll come to a venue and maybe all you have is a handheld. And if you are planning on doing a lot of public speaking, you better have your own AV equipment. Because the one thing you can count on is the hotel will screw it up. Right? Richard carries 3 in his van. I carry 2, and I have another one in storage. And there's been several times where I've come here and have to let other people use my equipment because their shit failed. Right? So you never rely on other people's stuff. Okay? Now, it doesn't mean you can't ask them for an extension cord or something like that. And also, don't let other people handle your shit. More shit goes missing from well-intentioned volunteers than anything else. Right? So, when you're on the stage, first and foremost, you need to be rooted. What does rooted mean? It means I need to be solid from the ground up. So one of the things that you can do, how many martial artists we have in the room? Okay? So, if you start from a natural stance and you go to a kind of a modified back stance, right? This is kind of a really good 3/4 angle. It gives you depth to the audience. You no longer are a flat picture. You always want to have depth. Okay? When I move in such a way that my back never goes to the audience. So, if I'm facing this direction or I'm facing this direction and I want to go right, I step right. If I'm facing this direction, I want to go left, I step left. Okay? It seems intuitive. You'd be amazed how many people do this shit. They walk right across and their back is to the camera and it creates a barrier. Now, shit happens on stage, especially organically. But in terms of stagecraft, you want to always have your ventral line facing your audience. If you think of the ventral line like a spotlight that's showering the audience with all the good vibes you have, you never want to turn that off. Okay? When I move very deliberately. Now, you can move fast, you can move slow. Just don't move tentatively. Right? You're allowed to move. But when you stop, stop. If you need to move, move again. Right? Make sense? Seems simple, and it is. But you'll be amazed how much you forget the moment you come up here. Microphone is the big one, though. When you use a microphone, always hold it in your upstage hand. Take your elbow, fold it, and now this hand becomes like a stand. This is one of the reasons why I use a headset, because I gesture a lot. But this happens a lot, you know, because we're trying to be dramatic, but we forget that it can't hear you down here, right? So I'm here, I'm talking. Now I want to turn this way. What did I just do? I just blocked myself, didn't I? Right? So if I need to turn this way, I switch. I need to turn this way, I switch. Make sense? This means yes, this means no, there will be a test. All right. Anything you want to add, Mr. Richard?
You're spot on.
Okay. Come on up if you want, sorry. Please give a big round of applause to Mr. Hypnosis, the great and powerful Sir Richard of Rumble.
Thank you.